Remember when Hollywood decided that the best way to honor a classic show was to completely ignore it ever existed? Yeah, we're still scratching our heads about that one too. Today we're diving into 7 TV reboots that hit the reset button so hard, they basically gaslit an entire generation of fans into questioning whether those original episodes were just fever dreams. Number 7. Knight Rider, 2008. The original Knight Rider ran from 1982 to 1986 and was peak 80s television. David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight, cruising around in K8, a talking Trans Am with more personality than most of the human characters. The show had it all: a mysterious billionaire benefactor, a high-tech car that could jump over things for no reason, and Hasselhoff's hair, which deserves its own spot in the TV Hall of Fame. It was cheesy, sure, but it was our cheese, and we loved every minute of it. Fast forward to 2008, and NBC decided it was time to bring Knight Rider back. But instead of continuing Michael Knight's story, or even acknowledging the legacy properly, they basically hit the reset button and hoped nobody would notice. The reboot followed Mike Tresseur, played by Justin Bruning, who turned out to be Michael Knight's son. Okay, so far so good, right? At least there's some connection to the original. Well, not really. The new Kit was now a Ford Mustang because apparently NBC had a very friendly relationship with Ford's marketing department. And instead of the iconic red scanner light, we got a vehicle that could shapeshift into other cars, because why have one gimmick when you can have 12? The show tried to modernize everything, giving us a Kit with nanotechnology, artificial intelligence that made the original seem like a calculator, and enough CGI to make your eyes hurt. But here's the thing, they played it so serious that it lost all the campy charm that made the original fun. It was like watching someone try to make a gritty reboot of Saved by the Bell. Some things just don't need that treatment. Val Kilmer voiced the new Kit, which should have been cool, but even Batman couldn't save this car crash. The show premiered with a 2-hour movie in February 2008 that pulled decent ratings, probably because Hasselhoff made a brief cameo as Michael Knight. And for 5 minutes, fans got to pretend this was actually connected to the show they loved. Then the actual series started, and the ratings dropped faster than K8's turbo boost wore off. Critics weren't kind either. They called it soulless, overly complicated, and a poor imitation of a show that was already pretty ridiculous to begin with. And that's saying something. Behind the scenes, the show was a mess. Creative differences, budget issues, and the fact that nobody could quite figure out what kind of show it wanted to be. Was it an action show? A drama? A tech demo for Ford? The writer's strike of 2007 and 2008 didn't help either, leaving the show scrambling to find its footing. By the time it was canceled after just 1 season and 17 episodes, fans were honestly relieved. It was like watching a beloved childhood pet get old and sick. Sometimes, it's kinder to just let it go. Justin Bruning continued acting after Knight Rider, landing roles on shows like Ringer and Grey's Anatomy, proving that not even this reboot could kill a career. As for Kit, well, that Mustang is probably sitting in a studio lot somewhere, wondering what it did wrong. The 2008 Knight Rider remains a cautionary tale about how you can have all the technology in the world, but if you ignore what made the original special, you're just driving in circles. And trust us, no amount of turbo boost can save you from bad writing. Number 6. The Bionic Woman, 2007. The original Bionic Woman ran from 1976 to 1978 as a spin-off of The $6 Million Man. Lindsay Wagner played Yaimi Summers, a tennis pro who got bionic implants after a skydiving accident and became a secret agent. It was the 70s, so naturally she spent time fighting fembots, befriending Bigfoot, and running in slow motion with that iconic bionic sound effect every kid tried to imitate on the playground. The show was campy, fun, and Wagner brought warmth that made Yaimi Summers genuinely likable. In 2007, NBC decided to reboot The Bionic Woman with a grittier, darker tone, because apparently every 2000s reboot required removing all traces of fun and replacing it with angst. Michelle Ryan, best known from British soap EastEnders, stepped into the role, and the show immediately ignored everything from the original. No fembots, no OSI, no running in slow motion with dignity. Instead, Jamie was a bartender who got into a car accident and woke up with bionic parts she never asked for. The reboot wanted to be gritty and realistic, which is hilarious for a show about a woman with a bionic ear, eye, arm, and legs. It's like making a serious documentary about the Tooth Fairy's dental credentials. The show featured Katie Sackhoff, fresh off Battlestar Galactica, playing Sarah Corvus, the first Bionic Woman who went rogue. Sackhoff was great, but even she couldn't save this sinking ship. Behind the scenes, production was plagued with problems. The original showrunner, David Icke, left after the pilot. Then the writer's strike hit, halting production after 8 episodes. The show bounced between spy thriller, superhero origin story, and brooding character drama, but never landed on anything coherent. It was like watching someone solve a Rubik's Cube while wearing bionic hands. Technically impressive, ultimately pointless. The tone was all over the place. One episode dealt with the trauma of becoming part machine. The next had Jaime using her bionic ear to eavesdrop on her boyfriend. Pick a lane. Critics weren't impressed, and viewers tuned out faster than you can say we can rebuild her. The show was canceled in 2008 after only 8 episodes aired. The reboot was so determined to distance itself from the original that it forgot to give us a reason to care. The original worked because it was earnest and fun. The reboot was dour and self-important, like the emo kid at the family reunion, who won't stop talking about how nobody understands them. Sometimes slow-motion running and fembots are exactly what we need. Number 5. Melrose Place, 2009. The original Melrose Place ran from 1992 to 1999 and was the ultimate 90s guilty pleasure, a spin-off of Beverly Hills. 90-20-10, it followed young professionals living in a Los Angeles apartment complex, dealing with careers, relationships, and more backstabbing than a Renaissance court. It gave us Heather Locklear's Amanda Woodward, one of TV's greatest villains, plus pool pushes, explosive affairs, and enough plot twists to make your head spin. It was trashy, melodramatic, and absolutely addictive. The CW launched a reboot in 2009, and while they technically acknowledged the original existed, they might as well have pretended it didn't. The new show followed a fresh batch of 20-somethings moving into the famous apartment complex, and only one original cast member, Ashley Simpson Wentz, playing Violet, showed up regularly, and she was new to the franchise anyway. The reboot brought back a few original characters for brief appearances: Laura Leighton as Sydney, Thomas Calabro as Michael Mancini, and yes, Heather Locklear as Amanda, but these felt more like desperate ratings grabs than genuine continuity. Here's the problem. The original Melrose Place worked because it was unapologetically soapy and over the top. People pushed each other into pools. There were evil twins. Someone literally came back from the dead. The reboot tried to be edgy and modern, tackling social media and contemporary issues, but it lost the campy fun that made the original a hit. It was like ordering a cheeseburger and getting a kale salad instead. Technically it's food, but it's not what you wanted. The new cast included Katie Cassidy, Colin Egglesfield, and Michael Rady, all talented actors who did their best with material that couldn't decide if it wanted to be Gossip Girl or the original Melrose Place. The show opened with a murder mystery. Resident Augie Kirkpatrick found dead in the pool and spent the season trying to figure out who done it. But the mystery was convoluted. The characters were bland compared to their 90s counterparts, and the whole thing felt like a pale imitation. Behind the scenes, the CW was betting big on this reboot. They'd had success with their 90210 revival, which had premiered the year before, so they figured lightning could strike twice. It didn't. The ratings were disappointing from the start, and despite bringing back Heather Locklear for a recurring role in the hope of the boosting viewership, audiences just weren't interested. Critics called it dull and lifeless, which is pretty much the worst thing you can say about a show that's supposed to be dramatic and exciting. The original Melrose Place thrived on its willingness to be ridiculous. Joe pulling a gun on everyone, Kimberly's wig reveal, Amanda's shoulder pads that could double as weapons. The reboot tried to ground itself in reality, and in doing so, sucked out all the fun. You can't make a serious version of Melrose Place. Now, that's like trying to make a dignified version of Jerry Springer. The whole point is the chaos. The show was canceled after 1 season and 18 episodes, limping to a conclusion that nobody watched. Katie Cassidy went on to have a successful career, notably as Laurel Lance in Arrow, while the rest of the cast scattered to various TV projects and movies. The 2009 Melrose Place remains a textbook example of how rebooting a show, without understanding what made it special, is a recipe for disaster. We didn't want a mature, grounded version of Melrose Place. We wanted pool pushes and scheming, and Amanda Woodward destroying lives in designer suits. Was that really too much to ask? Number 4. V 2009. The original V started as a 2-part miniseries in 1983, followed by a sequel miniseries in '84, and then a regular series that ran from '84 to '85. It was about aliens called the Visitors, who showed up on Earth pretending to be friendly, while secretly planning to steal our water and use humans as food. They were lizards in human suits, and the whole thing was a not-so-subtle allegory for fascism. It had everything. Big ships hovering over cities, resistance fighters, and that iconic scene where a visitor eats a guinea pig. Peak 80s sci-fi right there. A BC decided to reboot V in 2009, and they went with a completely fresh start. No references to the original invasion, no continuation of the story, just a brand new visitors showing up on Earth as if the 1980s version never happened. Which, to be fair, is kind of how reboots work with alien invasions. You can't really have the aliens come back and be like, hey, remember when we tried this 40 years ago? That didn't go well. Let's try again. The new V starred Elizabeth Mitchell as Erica Evans, an FBI agent who discovers the truth about the Visitors, and Morena Baccarin as Anna, the leader of the Visitors, who was equal parts charming and terrifying. The show had a great cast, including Morris Chestnut, Joel Gretsch, and Logan Huffman, and the production values were solid. Those alien ships looked genuinely impressive hovering over major cities, and the effects were a huge step up from the rubber lizard suits of the 80s. But here's where things got complicated. The show premiered in November 2009 with a lot of hype, and the pilot pulled in almost 15 million viewers. Abbas was thrilled. Then they made a baffling decision. They aired 4 episodes, then put the show on a 4-month hiatus, not returning until March 2010. And imagine getting hooked on a show, watching 4 episodes, and then being told, okay, see you in 4 months. By the time B came back, half the audience had forgotten about it and moved on with their lives. The show also suffered from pacing issues. The original miniseries moved at a breakneck speed, getting to the lizard reveal and resistance movement quickly. The reboot dragged things out, taking its time to develop characters and build tension, which would be fine if we weren't living in the age of short attention spans and peak TV. Viewers wanted answers and action, not slow burn mystery. The show did have its moments, though. Morena Baccarin was genuinely creepy as Anna, playing the character with a cold, calculating demeanor that made you believe she'd absolutely eat a guinea pig if it served her purpose. Season 1 ended with decent enough ratings that ABC renewed it for a second season. But they only ordered 13 episodes, and the writing was on the wall. The second season tried to ramp up the action and conspiracy elements, but it was too little, too late. The ratings continued to decline, and ABC canceled the show in May 2011, ending it on a cliffhanger that would never be resolved. Fans were left wondering what happened next, which is arguably crueler than just canceling it outright. Elizabeth Mitchell went on to have continued success, appearing in shows like Revolution and Once Upon a Time, while Morena Baccarin became a household name with roles in Homeland, Gotham, and Deadpool. The 2009 V reboot had potential, and honestly wasn't a terrible show. It just made the mistake of being too slow, in an era when audiences wanted instant gratification, and the bizarre scheduling didn't help. Sometimes a reboot can ignore the original and still work, but you have to stick the landing. V stumbled on the runway and never quite recovered. Number 3. Dynasty, 2017. The original Dynasty ran from 1981 to 1989 and was the epitome of 80s excess. It was all about the fabulously wealthy Carrington family and their rivals, the Colbys, scheming, backstabbing, and throwing each other into lily ponds and designer gowns. Joan Collins as Alexis Carrington was iconic, delivering zingers with perfect timing while wearing enough shoulder pads to double as protective armor. The show was camp, glamorous, and so over the top that it made Dallas look subtle. The CW decided to reboot Dynasty in 2017, and they went for a complete reimagining. No continuation, no connections to the original beyond character names and basic premise. This was Dynasty for a new generation, they said, which is TV executive speak for we're going to change everything and hope you don't notice. The new show starred Grant Show as Blake Carrington, Natalie Kelly as Crystal, his new wife, and Elizabeth Gillies as Fallon Carrington, Blake's ambitious daughter. Right off the bat, the reboot made significant changes. The original Crystal was a kind, sympathetic character. The reboot made her more complex and morally gray. Fallon, who was barely a character in the original, became the main protagonist, a power-hungry businesswoman determined to take over her father's company. And Stephen, Blake's gay son, was reimagined as struggling with his sexuality in a more modern, nuanced way, though the character was written off after 2 seasons. The show also added more diversity to the cast, including making the Colby family, the Carringtons' rivals, Latino, with Ana Brenda Contreras as Crystal Flores. This was a smart move, updating the lily-white world of the original for contemporary audiences. But here's the thing. While the show looked great with gorgeous costumes and lavish sets, it struggled to capture the campy magic of the original. It took itself a bit too seriously, playing the drama straight when it should have leaned into the absurdity. To be fair, the reboot had its fans. Elizabeth Gillies brought a sharp, calculating energy to Fallon that made her the standout character. And the show did deliver some genuinely soapy moments. There were catfights, corporate takeovers, and yes, someone did eventually get pushed into a pool, but it never quite reached the cultural phenomenon status of the original. It was like a designer knockoff, nice to look at, but missing that special something. The CW gave Dynasty 5 seasons, which is actually pretty impressive in today's TV landscape. The show wrapped up in 2022 with 108 episodes total, giving it a proper ending, which is more than many reboots can say. Behind the scenes, the show went through multiple showrunners and creative shifts, trying to find the right tone. Some seasons leaned harder into camp, others tried to be more grounded, and the inconsistency showed. One interesting note, Rafael de la Fuente, who played Sam, became a fan favorite and brought much-needed comic relief to the often heavy-handed drama. His character's journey and relationships provided some of the show's best moments, and Alan Dale, who appeared as Joseph Anders, the Carrington majordomo, gave the reboot a touch of gravitas that grounded the more outlandish plot lines. The Dynasty reboot didn't pretend the original never happened out of disrespect. It just chose to tell its own story in its own way, and that's fair. Not every reboot needs to be weighed down by 40 years of continuity, but by ignoring the original completely, it also lost the opportunity to pay homage to what made Dynasty a cultural touchstone. The result was a perfectly watchable show that never quite justified its existence. It was Dynasty in name only, and while that's not always a bad thing, it does make you wonder why they didn't just create an original show about warring rich families and call it something else. Number 2. Hawaii 5-0, 2010. The original Hawaii 5-0 ran from 1968 to 1980, making it one of the longest-running police dramas in television history. Jack Lord starred as Steve McGarrett, head of a special state police unit in Hawaii, fighting crime and looking impossibly cool while doing it. The show gave us that iconic theme song, Bookum, Dano, and 12 seasons of procedural goodness shot in beautiful Hawaiian locations. It was a product of its time, sure, but it was also massively influential. CBS rebooted Hawaii 5-0 in 2010, and here's the twist, it actually worked. Despite completely ignoring the original series' continuity and starting fresh, the reboot became a massive hit and ran for 10 seasons, proving that sometimes the best way to honor a classic is to do your own thing. Alex O'Loughlin stepped into Steve McGarrett's shoes, Scott Conn played Danny Dano Williams, and the show built a whole new mythology while keeping the spirit of the original. The reboot modernized everything. McGarrett was now a Navy SEAL instead of a straight cop, giving the show more action-oriented storylines. Danny was from Jersey, not Honolulu, creating a fun fish-out-of-water dynamic. And the show embraced technology, using surveillance, hacking, and modern forensics in ways the original never could. But it kept the important stuff, the theme song, the setting, and that sense of ohana, family, that made the original special. What made this reboot work where others failed? Chemistry. O'Loughlin and Conn had genuine buddy cop rapport that carried the show through weaker episodes. Grace Park and Daniel Dae Kim rounded out the core team as Kono and Shin, bringing heart and martial arts skills to the mix. The cast felt like a real team, not just actors reading lines together, and that authenticity resonated with viewers. The show also wasn't afraid to have fun. Yes, it had serious storylines about terrorism, crime syndicates, and McGarrett's complicated family history, but it also delivered ridiculous action sequences, bromance moments between Steve and Danny, and enough shirtless beach scenes to keep the tourism board happy. It knew what it was, and leaned into it without apology. Behind the scenes, the show faced its share of controversies. In 2017, both Grace Park and Daniel Dae Kim left the series after 7 seasons due to salary disputes, reportedly seeking pay equal to their white co-stars. Their departures were a major blow, and the show brought in new characters played by Megan Rath and Beulah Kowal to fill the void. The new cast members did their best, but longtime fans felt the loss. The reboot also brought back original cast member James MacArthur, who played Dano in the original series, for a guest appearance in Season 1. It was a nice touch, acknowledging the original without being beholden to it. Cam Fong, who played Chin Ho Kelly in the original, had passed away before the reboot, but the show honored his memory by naming Daniel Dae Kim's character after him. Hawaii Five-0 wrapped up in 2020 after 240 episodes, ending as one of CBS's longest-running shows. The series finale brought back several departed cast members and gave McGarrett a proper send-off, though some fans were disappointed by the ending. Still, 10 seasons is an impressive run for any show, let alone a reboot. What's remarkable is that the Hawaii Five-0 reboot succeeded by completely ignoring the original's continuity while respecting its legacy. It didn't try to continue old storylines or bring back aged characters for a nostalgia bait. It simply said, here's a new version set in the same world, and audiences accepted it. The reboot introduced the franchise to a whole new generation, many of whom had never seen the original, and that's ultimately what reboots should do, not replace the original, but stand alongside it as its own thing. Number 1, Battlestar Galactica, 2004. And here we are. At number 1, the reboot that not only ignored the original, but completely redefined it, proving that sometimes burning down the house and rebuilding from scratch is the right move. The original Battlestar Galactica aired in 1978 and 79 for just 1 season, though it spawned a sequel series, Galactica 1980, that lasted 7 episodes. Created in the wake of Star Wars' success, it was about the last surviving humans fleeing from robot enemies called Cylons after their home planets were destroyed. It had Lorne Green, disco-era costumes, a robotic dog named Muffet, and special effects that range from impressive to, we're just going to reuse the same explosion footage again. The original had its charms. It tackled some serious themes about survival, faith, and what it means to be human, but it was also undeniably campy. The Cylons looked like chrome toasters with red eyes, and the show never quite figured out if it wanted to be serious sci-fi or family-friendly adventure. It was canceled after 1 season due to astronomical production costs. And for years, it seemed like Battlestar Galactica would be remembered as a footnote in TV history, a Star Wars knockoff that couldn't quite stick the landing. Then came Ronald D. Moore. Fresh off his success with Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Carnival, Moore was tapped to reimagine Battlestar Galactica for the Sci-Fi Channel, now spelled sci-fi because apparently vowels are overrated. The reboot premiered as a miniseries in 2003 and it changed everything. This wasn't your father's Battlestar. This was dark, gritty, and politically charged, a post-9/11 meditation on terrorism, military ethics, and religious extremism wrapped in a sci-fi package. Moore made bold choices right out of the gate. Starbuck, originally a cigar-chomping male pilot played by Dirk Benedict, became Kara Thrace, a female pilot played by Katie Sackhoff, who was just as tough and twice as damaged. Boomer, a black male character in the original, became Sharon Valerii, played by Grace Park, and, spoiler alert, turned out to be a Cylon sleeper agent. And the Cylons themselves were reimagined as humanoid models that could infiltrate human society, with Number 6, played by Tricia Helfer, becoming one of TV's most complex and seductive villains. The show's visual style was revolutionary for TV at the time. Moore and director Michael Reimer employed handheld cameras during space battles, giving them a documentary feel that made the action visceral and immediate. The special effects were cinema quality, and the production design was grimy and realistic, making the Galactica feel like a real, aging warship held together by duct tape and prayer. But what really set the reboot apart was its willingness to tackle difficult subjects. The show dealt with suicide bombings, military occupation, torture, political corruption, and religious fundamentalism. It asked uncomfortable questions about how far is too far when fighting for survival. And it didn't always provide easy answers. This wasn't escapist entertainment. This was science fiction as social commentary, and it was brilliant. The cast was phenomenal across the board. Edward James Olmos brought gravitas and world weariness to Commander Adama. Mary McDonnell was steel and vulnerability as President Laura Roslin. And Jamie Bamber made Apollo a conflicted hero struggling with his father's expectations and his own moral compass. The ensemble worked together like a well-oiled machine, and the writing gave them material worthy of their talents. Battlestar Galactica ran for 4 seasons from 2004 to 2009. Plus several TV movies and a prequel series, Caprica. It won Peabody Awards, earned Emmy nominations, and was the first sci-fi show to be honored at the United Nations for its examination of human rights and terrorism. That's right, the UN invited a show about space robots to speak, because it had something meaningful to say about the real world. Let that sink in. The show's ending remains controversial. The final episode revealed that the fleet found Earth, our Earth, in the distant past, and that all of humanity descended from the Galactica survivors, mixing with primitive humans. It was a bold, mythological conclusion that some fans loved and others hated. But love it or hate it, you can't deny it sparked conversation and stuck with you long after the credits rolled. What makes Battlestar Galactica the ultimate example of a reboot that ignored the original is that it didn't just change details. It fundamentally reimagined what the show could be. It took a campy 70s space opera and turned it into one of the most critically acclaimed dramas of the 2000s, sci-fi or otherwise. It proved that reboots don't have to be pale imitations or nostalgia cash grabs. They can be bold, daring, and even better than the original. The cast went on to successful careers. Katie Sackhoff became a sci-fi icon. Edward James Olmos continued his legendary career, and Mary McDonnell earned multiple award nominations. The show's influence can be seen in every prestige sci-fi series that came after, from The Expanse to For All Mankind. Battlestar Galactica didn't just ignore the original, it transcended it, and in doing so, it became the gold standard for how to reboot a property. And there you have it. 7 TV reboots that hit the reset button and pretended the original never existed. Some crashed and burned, others found success, and one completely redefined what reboots could achieve. The lesson here is that ignoring the original isn't automatically good or bad. It all depends on whether you have something new and meaningful to say, or you're just slapping a familiar name on a generic show and hoping nostalgia does the heavy lifting. Which of these reboots do you think handled the fresh start best? And which ones made you want to dust off the original series and pretend the reboot never happened?